Over 20 podcasters, 70 weekly shows, and a 3.4-star rating on Roku TV. National Streaming Sports is brought to you in part by BetUs.com, designed for true fans. NFL odds, Week 1 and futures, college football odds, including Heisman Trophy favorites and playoff odds, NBA odds of division winners and playoffs, Major League Baseball playoff and World Series odds, the National Hockey League Conference playoffs and Stanley Cup odds, and boxing wagers. Betting opportunities include versus the spreads and outright winners, also during the game. Use our link on our website, nessp.info, the Bet Us Opportunities webpage, for a 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits. Must be 21 years old, and remember, bet responsibly. All right, folks, welcome to interview with Sports Scope host Robert Butler, one of my favorite podcasters on our network. Robert goes way back with me, so let's bring him in and let's start talking to Sports Scope host Robert Butler. How you doing, Rob?
Good to see you again, Mac. I'm doing pretty good. You know, other than had some technical issues with my laundry server on this. Everything is on an app now, Mac.
Yes.
Life is on an app. I swear.
Yes.
So the server's down on an app, so I had to get quarters from my neighbors. Other than that, I'm doing pretty good. It's about 95 degrees here in Nashville, and I had to turn my air down to 68 so I can talk to you and not be burning up. You know, I still like to wear my suit.
I know you do. The sharp-dressed man himself. So, Robert, Mac and Jack, Keith Engel with TGI Sports, the Philly Sports Guy, and Sports Scope are really the first 4 podcasts that started this whole thing off almost 4 years ago on Northeast Streaming Sports. We're now National Streaming Sports because I got podcasts from all over the country. But I wanted to get you in here. You know, this is going to go to YouTube on Northeast Streaming Sports YouTube page, so people get to know you, meet you, and hopefully come over and watch you. Very popular on Twitter, on X. Very popular. You got your own kind of YouTube thing going there. So I wanted to bring back one of my old friends and talk to him and how successful he's really been in podcasts. But first, Robert, I want to go back to what drove you to enjoy sports so much. What sports did you play and when did you start?
Well, just watching them with my dad as a kid on TV. Loved watching football. Played a little baseball as a kid. Got hit in the face a couple of times. Didn't like that. Same thing with football, but basketball really is my true love to play. You know, parents divorced, moving back and forth. So I always looked for a basketball goal because I can play by myself. You could always shoot and just, you know, work on your jumper, your free throws and whatnot. So that was my sport of choice to play. Now, of course, you know, after knowing me for 4 years, I love college football and the NFL to follow. It's over 30 years now, you know, of just following it and playing the fantasy and all that stuff and what it's blossomed into today.
Yeah, and growing up, what teams were you drawn to, Robert? I know, you know, today a lot of people watch for players, right? I mean, you know, they like LeBron or they like Patrick Mahomes. But what teams did you know that you were drawn to as you were growing up?
You know, Mac, before we had the Titans here in Nashville, the Cowboys, I followed the Cowboys because they were the only team on TV. Right. The Cowboys were on TV. The University of Tennessee football was on TV. We never took Vanderbilt serious, even though I'm out of Nashville. Vanderbilt's here. I worked as a carrier for Vanderbilt. You go to Vanderbilt if you want to get medical needs. You don't go to Vanderbilt if you want to watch your favorite football team. You know, you got a lot of surgeons there, and they're just not going to play well most of the time. So we thought Tennessee was in Knoxville was the serious college team. So then in 97, we got the Tennessee Oilers, and then ultimately in 99, we got the Tennessee Titans, and then I started following them senior in high school. We had the Music City Miracle and everything. Went to a few games there. Met a lot of Jamie Pags, Philly sports type of guys there in the crowds there, waiting long for hours to get tickets, and just had a really good time there, especially during those early years here with the Titans per se. So that was pretty much how it was. Now, we do have a pro team, a hockey team here. I've seen a few games with the Nashville Predators for the NHL, but I'm not a big hockey guy. I just cannot get into it like I do college football and the NFL. And, of course, ultimately, the NBA. I've been to one Memphis Grizzly game. It's very nice arena down there. But we would like to have a team here in Nashville, and ultimately a Major League Baseball team as well. And, boy, this city's growing. Maybe we will get that in the near future.
yeah. And like the Predators are a very good hockey team. The Memphis Grizzlies, a young, exciting team. They played really well this year. But let's talk about the Titans for a second here. Since Ryan Tannehill has left as your quarterback, really not a lot of success there. I mean, you're competitive, Robert, but you're not, deep into the playoffs anymore like you used to be.
Right. Well, they've got a whole new coaching staff this year. Actually, I'm pretty stoked about it. Be honest with you, the offense, Bill Callahan, Brian Callahan's the head coach. His dad is a legendary offensive line coach, and that's been one of Tennessee's biggest bugaboos over the past few years. I'll bring a guy, Rich Ferris, who works for the flagship radio station for the Tennessee Titans, has a lot of inside there since they're really looking good. And what I've seen from them in the preseason, from a blocking standpoint and a schematic standpoint, there's a lot for these fans to be excited about. If Levis does not cut it, it's not because the team did not put forth the best effort to put the proper players around him. I mean, they've signed a new center. The last two top 10 picks on the left side of the offensive line. They've invested draft capital there. They signed Calvin Ridley. Can you still hear me?
Sorry, Robert.
Yeah, that's okay. They signed Calvin Ridley. Yeah. So it's a lot to be excited about this year. I don't know if they're going to go to the Super Bowl or anything, but I think they'll be competitive to possibly get into the playoffs this year.
Yes, and you've drafted two quarterbacks in the last few years here.
Yes.
If Levis doesn't work out, are you going to draft another one?
Well, this year I would say so. I think Malik Willis he's a total miss. Lucky to be a backup in this league. He has improved, but he was super, super raw. He was a reach even at the third round. If you look at him, he's a great athlete, but man, he is not polished whatsoever. He's still making some of the same mistakes, but I like what I see out of Levis. I like his, dropping the ball down in preseason right now. And that's what Brian Callahan, head coach, says. We want to get his completion percentage up 10%, 10 points. It's right at 58. You get him at 68, 70. That's up there in Tua category, which, he had the highest completion percentage in the NFL last year. They've got the personnel to do it. But if he don't do it, I'm okay with them drafting another quarterback. Sometimes you just got to get it right,
Yeah, I agree. Listen, I agree. You can't just wait 3, 4, 5 years and hope that something kicks in. I mean, you got to at least keep getting something, try to get something going. Let me ask you about the young quarterbacks coming in this year. I mean, it's preseason. A lot of people are impressed with Caleb Williams. I think he's got a lot of weapons around him. I think he's going to have growing pains this year. Jaden Daniels, the same thing. I mean, he hasn't thrown for a touchdown yet. My favorite quarterback, and I said it before the draft, Robert, was Bo Nix. I thought Bo Nix was maybe the most professional-ready quarterback out there because he ran a pro system, very accurate. And right now, I mean, if I had to pick a quarterback that I was really impressed with this preseason, the most impressed I would be was Bo Nix.
Right, 60-plus starts as a college player. He's a guy that none of us that watched the SEC had any faith in 3 years ago
Right.
when he was with Auburn. But since he's went on to his dad's a coach, taught him right, push through adversity, don't give up, develop. He's got over 60 starts, Mac, in the college game. And I think where you land matters. He's got a good offensive-minded head coach there in Sean Payton. I think that they could possibly get to the playoffs in the next year or two, and they have a huge cap issue with the Russell Wilson debacle there. That would be good. I'm hearing and reading everything, what you're saying, plus what we're seeing in the preseason. Guys like Mark Schlereth out of Denver area, who doesn't pull any punches, Mac, for anybody, is saying this guy is having an amazing camp. And he would throw anybody in the bus. You know who Mark Schlereth is. Used to play offensive line for Denver. Works in a local radio station there. I think they may have their guy, and he very well may be the best guy in this class. He don't have the strongest arm. He's not the best athlete. But we said that about Montana and Brady. We all see Tom Brady's combine when he was trying to run in the combine. But he right system and got the good work ethic.
Accuracy, you can't teach accuracy, Robert, right? I mean, you can teach all the techniques you want, how to read a defense. You could do all that stuff, but you can't teach accuracy. And Joe Montana said accuracy is the most underrated, thing that you can have as a quarterback. So that's what I looked at in college, the 70 to 75% completion rate.
Really
he's
high,
doing that. He's doing that now. So I'm kind of stoked about him. We'll find out about the other quarterbacks because we know, as history teaches us, that most of these quarterbacks, there's once in a while you get a really good class, right? Yeah. But most times you don't. It's like 30%, 30% of the starting, the high draft quarterbacks don't even make it as a starting quarterback after a few years. So it's going to be really interesting to me.
Yeah, I think so too. And Caleb Williams, I mean, only thing that I could say that he might need would be an offensive-minded head coach. Man, could they have got a Jim Harbaugh or somebody like that to put underneath him? I'm watching the Hard Knocks there, and I'm thinking to myself, why is Matt Eberflus having one-on-one meetings without the quarterback coach nor the offensive coordinator, just with Caleb Williams? He's starting to feel the heat of the hot seat there, and you feel like he's pressing, and that could hinge on the development in the early years of a Caleb Williams. So that's something I'm kind of monitoring. But, yeah, personnel-wise, they look great, the Bears do. And Tennessee opens up against them in September.
Really I'll tell you, that's going to be a heck of a division, I think, with Detroit, Green Bay. I think Minnesota has a chance at playing really well, and the Bears. I mean, I think all four of them have pretty decent teams this year, and we'll see what happens with that. You always were the big story breaker. We used to have you on Sunday, the big football shows on Sunday. We had a lot of fun with that, and you're still doing that. I mean, there's a lot of things going on in college and pros. What I want to get to now before it gets too late is your podcast history. Tell people about how long ago you started Sports Scope and where you plan on going with it. As I said, I see you, of course, on our Roku channel, but also you're making big views over there on Twitter right now, Robert.
Yeah, the X app there. Now, a lot of the folks say, well, why are you calling it the Real Sports Scope? And we talked about it behind off camera there. Facebook is, we've talked about that, their problems too. My page got hacked, and I've sent them 1,000 notifications and emails, and I haven't got anything back. So I call it the Real Sports Scope, but you look for the logo and you say, well, what did that name come from? I started it, Mac, in May of 2017 on what no longer exists now, called the Periscope app, where you could just live stream and you could put it on then Twitter, and you could see who's watching your videos. I had a lot of pros, Antonio Brown, to name a few there, Dan Dockage, former coach. Urban Meyer used to watch the show because I would see whose verified account would watch my show. I just do it once a week. You know, I'm working a lot of hours. I'm a medical carrier, and I've been doing Uber on the side as a side note as well. So I'm doing 3 jobs. And then 3 years ago, after Labor Day, will be my 3rd year anniversary of doing this show Monday through Friday, you know, and I really want to get, you know, a national radio show, some type of opportunity, maybe with some type of company or whatnot. Just kind of just playing it all by ear. I'm actually advertising now the show on the X app and working on, I'm trying to get going on the TikTok app and trying to get going live there. But as always, technology's ever changing, and we're just trying to figure it out as we go, Mac.
Yeah, I mean the TikTok. I have a TikTok studio I use, but you have to have like 300 followers for it to go live.
Yeah, there's so many followers.
Yeah, there's so many different things that you got to have. In fact, Twitter, you know, they raised the amount. You have to have a premium now to go live, and I think it's like another $8 a month. But on principle alone, you know, I was going live to Twitter. It's like, I'm not paying you any more money.
Yeah.
I'll put my audio up on there instead of the video, which I do. But
right.
I probably
and I just upload my Twitter on the X app. I upload it. So
there you go.
It's not live. I've had problems with them too. Yeah.
Right. It's and Instagram I was on for a second, and then they booted me out. I don't know what happened with that. I had their little link there, and then that didn't work anymore. So it's always something is always trying to stop you from doing something. It's incredible. But listen, you anchor our nighttime over on Roku, and you know that's why I'm glad you're there. You're there every day.
I'm glad it's still working, Mac, on your end.
Yeah, yes, I am too. The growth has been tremendous on Roku. We're up over 12,400 something followers, and we're getting tremendous views out there right now. We're going to be we got a lot of things going on behind the scenes, Robert, including, as you saw, we're being affiliated with BetUS now. But back to sports, because that's what they want. That's what they want to hear. Tua, I'm not even going to try and say his last name. He comes out. He kind of calls, without going into the whole interview, which, we talked about on last night's show. Basically, he was saying that Flores was bullying him, basically, right?
Yeah.
You didn't belong there. And we know, if you know anything about the history of the Miami Dolphins, when Flores was there, they had Fitzpatrick. They were winning games. They had a shot at going into the playoffs.
Yes.
They draft Tua. He wanted Herbert. He didn't want Tua. They forced Tua on him. And what he did, and under this scenario, because I don't like the way they rewrite history, Robert, right? This was his first job as a head coach with the Miami Dolphins.
Yes.
So he's kind of learning as he's going. He's an old school coach. He's going to correct you when you make mistakes, whether you like it or not. That's what he's always done, and that's what most coaches do on the field. Now, some are a little bit more subtle than others. Some are a little bit more louder than others.
Yes.
And I don't think he really knew how to push everybody's buttons. I think that's something you learn as you go, right? Some people you got to be a little hard with. Some people you got to pat on the back a little bit. Tua seems to me like a very sensitive guy, very religious, very sensitive. And I don't like the way this was done with Dan Le Batard. I think it was a setup. I think they did it in that last question. That's what everybody's talking about now. I think Flores handled it great, saying, I got to learn from it. I wish him success. Mm-hmm. But I think they kind of threw him under the bus, Tua and Le Batard at the same time. And to me, if you look at the history of Tua, when he came into the league, he didn't know his playbook. He admitted it. So he wasn't prepared. Yes. He got hurt the first year. He got taken off the field. He had a broken finger on his throwing hand. So he didn't play the whole year. Then the second year, he gets hurt again. He gets bad ribs. Concussions, 3 concussions, Robert. So that affected his play too. Now they're saying, well, because he's with this new head coach, all of a sudden, he's saying he's the best, and everything's flowers and lollipops and rainbows over there now. So Tua is now playing better. I think it's a normal progression. If you're a good quarterback from year 1 to year 3, you're going to play better. And I think if you're healthy, you're going to play better. So I don't like it when they try to rewrite history and make it sound like Flores was badgering this guy so much, and Tua says as much, that he didn't play well. there was a lot of reasons why he didn't play well.
Yeah.
Not because Flores was just yelling at him, Robert. What do you think?
They had line problems, and I was waiting for LeBatard to really push Tua and say, okay, Tua, are you sure he called you a loser every single day? Right. It sounds like he's exaggerating a little bit. Yes. And, of course, I'm like you. I was expecting a totally different answer from Flores. I thought he was going to say he needs to toughen up. I didn't say that. He was very apologetic. And, Nick Saban was talking to Matt Eberflus in the Hard Knocks. I guess Eberflus played for Saban years ago. And I clipped it and talked about it on my program the other day. Essentially, what he was saying is, and my point is, you have to – quarterbacks are like pilots, and everybody else you treat like Marines or whatever. You have to talk – you can't, get them overworked or too scared to do anything. You can't overly, holler at them. Joe Gibbs talked about that. Joe Gibbs, three quarterbacks, 3 Super Bowl wins. He says you kind of reassure them. You got to I don't know. I don't say stroke their ego, but you don't want them to lose confidence. And you see a guy like an Andy Reid, but also he's really good at it. Look at the other aspect of this, the communication skills or lack thereof of Bill Belichick assistants. Matt Patricia had no communication. Josh McDaniels supposed to be an offensive guy, Mac. He's had fallouts with Jay Cutler. He's had fallouts in his last job. We know about with the Raiders. Well, I've seen him and Brady cuss each other out, but they're successful. But in the Jets game of 3 or 4 years ago, that was a big deal. To me, I thought, wow, they're really cursing. They forgave each other, but it was noticeable on the sideline. There's something about those Belichick assistants. Brian, what's that guy? Bill O'Brien. He had to be held out from cursing out the fans one time, Mac. It's like they have no, it's kind of a hothead. So there's something else to that. And I think Flores, he's an old soul, but he's about my age. I like the way he handled it. And I'm with you. I think that he will probably get another shot just because of the way he handled that situation. Realize, hey, I got to kind of take a different approach here, especially with this offensive game that the way the game's going nowadays.
And CJ DeSimone said one thing that was really, I never thought of it like this. It's different, right? Like Bill Parcells was a hard coach, but he knew who to be hard with and who not to be hard with. That's
good
something
psychologist,
that got to learn, Exactly. Psychology. A lot of coaches don't know this stuff. But CJ DeSimone says that this is no longer athletes competing physically like it was 20, 30 years ago. This is more like entertainment than football used to be. Yeah. Right? And the young players coming up emotionally cannot handle stress like the older players could. Now, granted, there's a lot more stress because of social media, but they put themselves out there on social media too,
that
Robert.
Is true, right?
So he says it's more of it's not that physically they're worse. It's just emotionally, they're ready to cry about anything that if somebody says, I don't like you, they get upset, right? And I never looked at it like that. Entertainment versus football, more drama than, the actual game. The drama is bigger than the game now, Robert.
Well, maybe it's because shows like ours, we talk about it all day, and I love it. I told my mom, I said, listen, Mom, she actually watches my show. I said, she's a big soap opera person. Young and restless. My mom, big soap opera person. Yeah. I said, sports talk radio is soap opera for us men, primarily. And I listen to it, the radio. Now we have podcasts. Now we have, live stream shows. And it's addictive. One Sunday I was listening to you and Jack. Y'all had a really good back and forth there. And I thought that was awesome. And I thought it just listening to the drama and this coach doesn't like this player. And, you got Aaron Rodgers and Robert Saleh, and I'm thinking, I wonder what's going to happen next, or is so-and-so going to get cut, or is Stephon Diggs from Buffalo going to get traded? Of course he did.
Right.
But
yeah,
he's right about there is a level of entertainment, and I find myself talking about it in the off season. It's a 365-day-a-year sport now.
It is, and of course, one last thing before you go.
Sure.
A quarterback, his last name is Doucette, if I'm not mistaken. He's the quarterback for the flag football champions. Now, I don't watch flag football. I don't think a lot of people do. And, whoever, maybe their families do and whatever. Yeah. But it's not a big sport. Now, NFL is pushing it because of the Olympics. It's like they're trying to make this their own. He comes out and he says, well, professional football players are going to have to earn their way on our flag football team. And, it just sounds dumb. And then another guy pointed out, he says, yeah, well, they're already playing flag football in the Pro Bowl already. So they probably would, they would probably wipe the field with the flag football team. Did you find that humorous or interesting that this guy, who Patrick Mahomes might be going out as quarterback for the flag football team, he's going to have Patrick Mahomes actually compete with him to be the flag football quarterback.
That is funny. And I think my generation and then on to your generation and my dad's generation, we think it's ridiculous. But I think my nephew's generation, younger generations coming up, which are changing the kickoff rules. I mean, we're trying to lessen the hits, it could blossom into a big deal years from now. But it is funny.
After we're all gone, Robert, maybe flag football will be the thing. Who knows?
Hopefully it'll hold off until me and you're gone.
Yeah, exactly, because I couldn't stomach it. I played flag football, when I was in the military and stuff. But to sit there and actually watch a game is very boring. So it's crazy.
I'd rather watch two kids play on Madden football. That's addictive. It's a big thing now. Madden tournaments. You can watch them on TV and
it sure is. Now that they got all that NIL thing out of the way, now they actually have college, EA Sports going again. And I don't get into it, Robert. I'm the old get your feet on the grass. That's me. I don't know, fantasy too. But we're gonna do a fantasy. We're gonna do an interesting fantasy thing that maybe you'll want to follow. And I'm gonna let it out here before Sunday. How's that? The Players Top 100, right? They announced it. So instead of going through the whole player thing, which is very boring, I'm going to have them play the big football show on fantasy football. I'm going to take all their top picks. They can pick first. Like, for instance, Jackson is their number one quarterback. So that's their pick. So we'll probably pick Patrick Mahomes. And we're going to go down the line like that and find out during the year and at the end of the year who has the better idea of the best players in the NFL.
Oh, that's brilliant, Mac.
Right? Thank you. I think it is too. Thank you. So I'm letting it out here.
Players should play, Mac, and they shouldn't be general managers. You don't put Lamar Jackson over Patrick Mahomes. They had Tyreek Hill up there over quarterbacks.
Yes. Well, they can have Tyreek Hill. Their second pick, I think, is CeeDee Lamb. We may take Jefferson. Hey, you know what I mean? So that's how we're going to do it. We'll do it this Sunday. I think we're going to do the bet, and we'll have somebody follow it on the show and see how we do against the players. So it's the NFL players against the big football show. I think it's pretty cool.
Right.
So I know you got to get going, Robert. I appreciate you coming in and spending some time with me. Good luck on Sports Scope. Everybody, check out The Real Sports Scope with Robert Butler, one of the best shows that we have on Roku, on our Roku channel, 8 o'clock Monday through Friday Eastern, and also on Twitter. I imagine you're still doing Facebook and YouTube and all that stuff, Robert, right?
And maybe not Facebook. The podcast will be on Spotify, Apple, anywhere you get your podcast. That still works, knock on wood.
Okay, beautiful. All right, Sharp Dress Man. Thank you for stopping in. I'll have it up on Northeast Streaming Sports YouTube channel tonight if you want to check it out. And
I'll share it.
Again, I appreciate you coming on, Robert. It's been a long time.
It's always fun, and it goes by quick.